Guys, welcome back to the Prepare to Fight Fire podcast. Today, I have Stephanie White that has come on. Stephanie's been in the fire service 20 years. And like myself, she also has a podcast, 5 After Midnight, which is an awesome podcast for anybody out there that hasn't heard it. And I'm super stoked to just have her on as a guest. It's always cool to be the reverse and not take the lead in running the podcast. And so, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I know you've been crazy busy.
No, no worries. No, I'm never too busy for anybody. Every one of us are important. And I want to kind of talk about that and we'll dive right into the mental health stuff. We, as a fire service, are very special, right? And I'm sure you can agree with that. And we're special in a lot of different
In
ways.
so many ways.
Yeah, in so many ways. But it's just, for me, it's always been tough, right? It's like, how can everyone be so selfless with, like, for the most part, the people we serve, and be so selfish with the people we serve alongside? You know what I mean? Like, it's always been so interesting to me. Like, you think it'd be the opposite, and it's not always like that, but we're all important. We all have priorities. We talked about this earlier. So, like, yeah, what's your take on that?
I think what you're talking about is our ability to completely eat our young. Listen, as long as I've been in the fire service, that's been a thing. It's actually gotten way better than it used to be, but it's still there. And I don't have the answer. The hypothesis I have is we're so type A that everything is still a competition. Listen, to anyone who's had siblings out there, you love your sibling, but you still competed against them, right? You still had grudges and you still had bad blood. I have to think some of that atmosphere carries over into the firehouse. Because you're right. How else could we care so much about people, but then just the sharpness with which we judge them or treat them when we don't feel they're meeting our expectations and our standards? It's so cruel sometimes. But having had four brothers, I mean, yeah, Irish Italian family, it kind of was that some days.
Yeah.
Didn't mean I didn't love them, but we were all type A's and at each other's throats and the criticism and it's got to be a big part of it. I don't have the research to back that up other than being the only girl with four brothers, but that's my theory.
Well, and I think a big issue is obviously the lack of leadership that we have as a whole, right? The lack of people that just don't they don't understand that, like, not everybody's oven bake ready. There are people that take longer to develop, and there are people that need to be told, hey, you need to develop. Like, that's another thing, is like there's so many instances that people just, they write people off instead of helping people.
Well, and how much do we have this fire department mold? I wrote something about it just this week on social media. We have this mold that we expect everybody to fit in. And if you don't, if you're quirky, if you're weird, you are outcast. And I don't mean like in a shove you in a locker or a school kid way, but people don't think about you when it comes to skills and strengths and leadership. And you get left off of committees or people don't ask you to teach at the academy or whatever. But yet some of those people, especially if they're neurodivergent, ADHD, they got that quirk. Man, you put them on a project that they're obsessed with and they will hyper focus it to death and it will be an amazing project. But they don't fit that little mold, right? So we ignore them. I think
Yeah,
that's a big part of it too.
it's it's unfortunate, and I tell everybody, like, hey, man, not everybody is going to be your people, and that's fine. Like, don't let that bother you. Like, there's, hopefully you work in enough, like, it's tough because if you work at a two-station department and you have a tough time, you may want to look at going to a bigger department that has more people to work under. But yeah, and I'll be transparent. I've struggled. I burned a lot of bridges and rubbed people the wrong way immensely, because I had a time where I came across with the mindset of, why isn't everybody trying to be the best they can be? And I would judge people for it. It would bother me. Like, I'd be like, you've been given such a great opportunity. Like, you're a firefighter, like, you're a paid firefighter. Like, that, people would die to do what you're doing, and, like, you take it for granted. How dare you? Obviously, who am I? Who am I to think that way? Who am I to come across? I still am, but I was a very passionate and unguided person, right? Version of myself. And I didn't understand that everybody's on their own path, and it's not anybody's job to change anybody. It's our job to influence people, right? And if you look at someone and you see how they operate, and it's not of that influence, then they probably haven't been influenced by the right people. Now, never, and it's one of those things that is like, it's kind of sad. I've been really, really grateful and have had amazing leadership. I've had people that have beat me down, but built me up in every way, right? And when I say beat me down, it was just like, hey, this is what we need to be. This is what we need to do. This is how we need to operate. This is how you need to talk to people. This is what they expect, and you're not there. And it's like, and but it was followed up with so much reassurance. Like, you're new. Like, it takes time. You have a lot of energy. You have a lot of passion. Like, we need to harness that, put it in the right direction, and then I'll go from there. So it's one of those things that, like, I've come to realize everybody has their own way of thinking, and you shouldn't change people. You know what I mean? People want to, like you said, have this mold, and it's like, that's your mold. That's not everybody else's mold. If I could be honest, the one thing I hate, like, it makes me cringe, is when people say like, "Oh man, just trying to be like you," and it's like, no, and you're missing the point. That's not
Don't be
life.
like me.
Yeah, and it's not, and I get where it's coming from. Like, I assume like it's my consistency or my energy or my passion, or it's like me trying to do things. But we're all unique. You know what I mean? So just circling back, that my ADD went crazy here, to what we started talking about, of just everybody is unique in their own way, and everybody um, deserves the highest level of, like, compassion, right? And we got to work on that as a whole. So let's dive into what got you started with your podcast of Five After Midnight.
So we're gonna ADD back a little bit because I do want to hit something there. Man, I used to judge the hell out of people when I would ask them why they joined the fire service, and their answer just wasn't the reason I thought that you should be joining the fire service. And it was such a snotty, bratty little attitude looking back on it, because if it wasn't affecting their performance, like if they weren't saying here for the income, not the outcome, if that wasn't the mindset, if they were doing the job and performing, why should it matter if they had the passion and love for the job? So it is, I think we've all been through that snotty little, everybody around me should want to perform at a certain level, or everyone around me should feel a certain way about the job. And then I think as you get a little bit older and you make way more mistakes and you get forgiven for those mistakes, and you look around, you see the people that you felt weren't performing at their best in a certain category are outperforming you in another category that you're not the best in. Because guess what, mofo? We are not going to be the best in every category, right? So those who might not have physical prowess we do, they might be the most patient people on the face of the planet with patients or with citizens. Well, it's a journey. It's a journey to get out of your own head and your own expectations for what you think people should be.
Yeah. Uh, Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to
No,
answer your other question, but
I
add
just
on.
I wanted to just, like, finish that with, it's also what your influence is. If you and me come on the job at the same time, and maybe you don't know what it is to be passionate, right? You've never had that influence. You don't know what it is to have a high standard. You've never had that, and then you don't have that. Versus like me, that gets surrounded by people who really do care, and I'm great, because it's so important. I swear, it makes the biggest difference when you come into this job, who you're influenced by, right? Like, I think that plays a huge factor.
You keep using the word influence, which is the correct word, but really what you're talking about is mentorship. And we
Right.
want to complain all day long about different issues we see in the fire service. If First off, if you're going to complain, you better be doing something to create change. That's my rule for the kitchen table. And two, if you haven't identified somebody and taken them under your wing and are training them, which is mentorship, what are you doing? Because sure, you can try to change the fire service all on your own. You're not going to. So why would you not take somebody that you saw struggling, or I feel you're not doing it the right way. Cool. I'm going to take you under my wing and I'm going to show you the right way. And you're going to learn your own correct way out of it. But if I'm complaining, I better be mentoring.
Mm,
because that's how
yeah.
change happens on multiple fronts.
And that takes work. And, you know,
We got
how
cell
some people,
phones these days, you know? It's a lot easier.
100%, 100%. So the podcast, talk to me.
So the podcast, it was only supposed to be one episode, actually. I was on somebody's show. They had a podcast on fire engineering, and I wanted to do just one show on some medical issues I saw a bunch of my friends having. Never did that episode. Still haven't done it, but it just evolved into a show where I didn't want to have like a bunch of names everybody knew on it. I just wanted to have conversation with firemen who, we're talking about different things. So the first episode, my buddy that I had on there was a peer team lead in a busy Metro DC County, and just talking about mental health 3 or 4 years ago. And then the next guy was, senior guy at his company in Philly, and just talking about what the iteration of a senior guy means in today's environment. There is no, I can't say there's a standard theme to the show other than just having kitchen table conversations, right? Somebody new walks into the firehouse for the day, something I try to do, and as I'm getting older and grumpier, it's getting harder, but is ask them questions like, hey man, where are you from? Did you grow up here? When did you join? Why'd you join? You want to learn things about them, right? So it's that. It's just that style of a conversation of, hey, here you have a message. Tell me who you are. So haven't been recording lately because life's been a little crazy and I feel like my face is a little too much out there and trying to avoid that, but getting back into it this month actually. And it's something I miss because conversing with firemen is pretty darn fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the best. What what makes you say that? Like, why do you say? Obviously, we'll dive into that. You're doing a lot with Firefighter Nation through fire engineering, and I can assume that that's taking a lot of energy. But why do you feel like your face is out there too much?
Oh, we're gonna go down a gender role rabbit hole with that. I think you have to be a little bit more careful as a woman. Social media, I'm going to date myself. Social media wasn't even a thing when I came in the fire service. So then when it came along, it was chicks in turnout pants and crop tops and push up bras. And it's just, you had to fight against the stereotype even more. So it's been a fun journey of walking the balance of being a girl who has a voice and a path and a platform, and not being the girl who's out there too much looking like a subject matter expert on everything, because I am a subject matter expert on nothing. Sleep, wanting sleep. That's the only thing I'm an expert on. So it's just that balance, right? Of being the girl in the boys' arena and not trying to look like the know it all and have your face everywhere, but also um, if representing the fact that, hey, I don't care what gender, race, whatever you are, if you've got something to say, step up and say it,
Right.
right? That's how the fire service changes.
Yeah.
It's a strange little journey I've been on.
It's interesting, and I can't say I understand because obviously I'm not a chick, but I definitely see how that could come across. And I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for having the awareness of having the mindset you have, because that's excellent, right? That's such a humble mindset, and it's amazing. I think if you're one of a good example and you're one that someone can be better off or mirror to help other people, then I think for sure. The thing is that people are on the internet. Like people no, like there are faces and there are messages on the internet. I had a long conversation with someone. Shout out to him. I'm not going to bring his name up because he's a silent operator. He likes to just do things in the dark, and he's amazing, passionate. He called me checking in, and he said, "Hey man, remember that there are people on Instagram that put their gear on, splash water in their face, and create content. And you're in that bubble, right? Because you create content. People don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? They see that you went through smoke divers. They see you work out, but a lot of people don't know what that stuff is either, right? How many
Right.
firefighters have been through smoke divers, right? Like
Not a whole lot.
let's call the country. Let's just say I'll just say for easy numbers, there's a million career firefighters in the country. There's way more, but we'll just use a million. Out of a million, let's call 500. Let's call 2,000 that have gone through smoke divers.
I
Like
feel like 2000 is a bigger number than it is, but yes.
out of a million, it's not. You know what I mean? So
Right.
the rest of those people have no idea what like this little patch over here like even means, right? So you're in the same bubble as they are. So when you like create content, it has to be a little bit different. Like it has to come, you have to kind of delve into who you are, like as a person, because social media is very tough with people understanding the person, right? Like people think they know who you are and they think they know you. Even myself, like we've never had a conversation off the internet or off the phone. So it's a different like understanding of where you're coming from, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense.
Like he said, there's that person that just throws water in their face. There are those girls that make the videos with the crop tops. And then there's people like us that put ourselves out there to like be criticized, right? And be judged, whatever the case is. But something I've always told myself, I don't make content for my friends. My friends love me and talk shit, right? Like that's what they do. And even the person that called me, I don't make content for him. He's solid. He doesn't need my content. But there are people that aren't him. There are people that aren't me. There are people that don't have the friendship that we have, that don't have people that call them and check in. And there are people that like have that standard, have that influence, have that mentorship. Like there are those people. There's girls that don't have that, right? They have the people that are like, you shouldn't be here, right? They have the weak, like immature thought process of like, no, dude, every person that works for fire rescue has a strength that we have to harness and then empower, right? The person's here to serve. Like it's super important. So I don't know if that kind of helps you, but
No, it does because it's such a strange place of just like you said, I don't write content for my shift at all. They're just going to make fun of me. In fact, I don't talk about what I do outside of the firehouse from my shift because I'm going to end up with memes posted all over the refrigerators. So that's a no. Nothing I make is for anyone I know. I make it for the people I've seen struggle. I have to assume that there's way more out them like that, more out there like that. So that's what I'm making my content for. I'm making my content for a memory of somebody that I had. And different things will pop into my head and I'll go, you know what? I bet somebody's struggling with that out there too. So that'll be a piece of content that I make. So you're right. I mean, what about those people out there who are feeling underrepresented? And how do you make sure that you play the balance game of, for example, I don't post pictures from fires, from calls. If I post a picture from inside my firehouse, it's maybe a shift member working out or it's us goofing around is really all it is because I don't want you like there are a million other people posting pictures of their fires and their all that stuff. Like I don't want anybody getting hung up on that. Like, hey, she's trying to be this or that. It's nope. I live in a firehouse. I understand the culture. So that's the shot. That's the angle you're going to get, right? So
100%.
it's that balance of not being an influencer, being a firefighter, but also, well, shit, have influence because I might be the only voice that's level headed in a certain category that somebody gets to hear today. It's a weird place to be, man.
No, it's very very interesting. And I struggle with it. I'm not gonna lie. Today I worked out with those candidates that I told you about. They crushed it. They did great. And I told them, I say, the moment you see me in gear with my phone out, I'm not training, I'm creating content. And I need to be more vocal about it. Like, hey guys, like right now, like I'm not training. When I train, I don't have my phone. Because how can you create content of yourself and actually put in the work to get a training session? You
You don't
can't,
want to see me work out. It's ugly.
right? So, but it's a part of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I don't like it. and I don't have to like it, right? Same thing with, like you said, like pulling your face out of it. I get sick of my face too, like putting it on podcasts and pictures
Hmm.
and stuff. But I think it's a necessary evil that, as long as like we both can understand the outcome and the intention, then it doesn't matter the people that like think the set things. I don't know. That's my thought. It doesn't make it right or wrong.
No. So I'm going to build on that a little bit because I was in a committee meeting yesterday with one of the established organizations. And I told them, I said, listen, there needs to be an outside resource page for this group that's branded, that has social media, that has a catchy name. Because, yeah, you guys are an organization and you're well established. Nobody cares. Kids these days are not going to your organization website, they are on social media. And from social media, they might click on your catchy website, and that's where they're going to get this life saving information. And you have to go out and you have to create this parallel influencer brand. And the rest of the committee members backed me up, and you could kind of see the light bulbs coming on the organizational heads that were there. And it's, listen, that's where we are right now in the world. Is it used to be the influencers in the fire service were like the old salty guys that had proven themselves. Maybe they had great fun personalities, maybe they didn't, but it was a live in-person human being. Now the world is at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And I'll challenge you with this. I was laughing because at FDIC, somebody had said about me, well, and it was somebody in a completely different, bigger East Coast department. Well, she doesn't do anything for her own department. And I stopped and I thought about it. Well, no. I do plenty of things for my own department, but you know what? Let's say I didn't. Let's say I wasn't involved in the union, wasn't involved in manual committees or anything like that. Let's say I did none of those things. Simply taking my precious private stories, my privacy, and putting that out there as a lesson with a lesson, you can't tell me that's not doing anything for my own department because my own department is out there on the internet. Everyone is online. So you want to create some sort of change, that's where you're going to have to do it because that's where the world exists right now. You no longer need to be the old salty guy. You can create change and difference with creative content. And that is the bizarre place that the fire service world sits right now. And it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's a crazy place to be.
There are a lot of people that are highly motivated and very passionate that are creating content that aren't backed with experience. There's that too, right? Like there's guys like Jim McCormick that are just everywhere they walk, they have salt falling out of their pockets of just how much experience they have, but they're not out here creating reels, like, and it's, we're losing that. Like for me, and I'm going to try again to get him on the podcast. We're losing understanding that the old school mentality, because I think it's super necessary. There are really, really old school guys that are fucking awesome, like amazing, right? Good people, good leaders, good at the job, but they're not creating content and they're getting like left. Like it's like we're light speeding into the future and they're just like, they're not moving. So unless you go take a class with them or you work with them in their department while you can, where does that like go? Where does that experience go? Where does that knowledge go? And I'm having a tough time now with older guys coming on the podcast because they're like, I don't like the internet. They're anti-internet, and it's like, I understand what your like approach is of not liking the internet, but like what you have is so valuable. And it's like, this will be here forever for people to like consume and learn from that
Mhm.
you can never reach. I had a really good mentor of mine, shout out to him. And I asked him to come on the podcast. And he said his response was so prolific. And it doesn't surprise me. He's an amazing person. But he just said, I'm an extremely introverted person. And the only time I'm extroverted is when I have a comfortable space of shared suffering with people that are taking my class. Right. So shared suffering of PT and being in gear and stuff like that. That's when he's motivational and he could speak and he does this. But sitting in front of a camera, he's like, I don't want to do it. I don't do it. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, so now like everybody that I meet, I'm like, yo, you got to go take this class and meet this guy. And it's like going back to like, like you see TV shows and movies and it's like, you got to go meet this monk. But like to meet the monk, you have to like climb 2 mountains And it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to go climb 2 mountains. And I'm like, no, no, you understand. Like, if you meet this guy, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
I stopped doing my podcasts when they told me I had to start going on camera. I was like, nope, because
Really?
it because I'll say this, there is something sacred about having a conversation and not having the world see your reactions, right? Because something I do talk about on the podcast is mental health and experiences people have been through so that others can feel seen. And if I'm telling a story like that, like I don't want the world seeing my face, right? As a guest. So that's the dichotomy of all of this is like you said, those old guys who are like, "No, why do I want to talk about these things on a camera when I can just teach people in person?" Or maybe they've got some stories that are tough to recount. They don't want them living on the internet. It's one thing to tell a classroom full of people, and those people will go out and they'll repeat the story. It's another thing to open your phone and tune in and see that story, right? So that is the
Yeah, and
balance.
that's a good perspective. That's why I love talking to people and getting different perspectives. It's like they're sacred. It's it's ironic. It's selfish of me to want that, and then like not respect that like that's theirs.
I'm going to tell you the perfect answer. You know, it does live on, and you can hear people's voices and you can read their lessons, but not have to see the pain on their face is writing. That is why I absolutely love writing is when you get people to write down their stories and their experiences, that's going to live forever. And they can do it from a place of safety. So your mentors that you're talking about that, you know, they don't want their face on camera, get them to write. Because guess what? We all can read. Hopefully, most of us. If we join the fire service, hopefully we can freaking read. And it's just such a great way to carry on those legends and those lessons without putting people outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And then even I can come on and create a podcast and talk about, I'll leave their name out of it. Just talk about what they wrote. You know, that's a great idea. Yeah, it's always been for me. I've looked at it like you not wanting to share is selfish because like you for me I look at it like you can help so many people with sharing your experience. You can like ignite so many, like we all have like little fires. Every one of us has a little bonfire inside of our human body. It's our soul, right? And you meet certain people and you learn from certain people, and these people just like grab huge Christmas trees and throw them into your little bonfire, and they just like explode, and like you feel good, like you're re-energized, like you have a better perspective, you have structure, you have actual tangible tools from conversations, lessons, whatever the case is, instruction. And so for me, I'm like those people that like move me, and like I'm not anything special, but I have a very high standard. And when I meet people that move me, I'm like, holy shit, like I have a platform. How awesome would it be to share this amazing human being with like the world? But then like I reel myself back into where like there are people that don't want that, and I now have come to respect that even more, right? Because like now there's so many people that want to put their face out there, that want to be like people want to be known, people want the attention, and then there's like these amazing human beings that are like, no, like I don't
So
want that.
I've had that happen. I had a battalion chief who, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here right now because this man really taught me to channel my, like, I had a lot of anger at a certain point in my career and I just wanted to kick indoors and throw in cherry bombs. And he really taught me, oh, this is how you, Stephanie, can go create change. Use this part of your voice, use this talent, be level headed, go forth. And he really took a spinning top and he slowed it down and pointed it in the right direction. And that's how I ended up where I did. He's not the kind of person who's going to be on a podcast. And so, where I look at stuff like that, is it's now my job to carry the lessons that you taught me forward, and you're forever that legend. Those lessons are going to forever going to live on when I go teach it to somebody else. That being said, I think there is something for everybody. I think it's a matter of looking at somebody saying, hey, All right, we got to get you, a little piece of you out to the world. How do we do it? And I think there's so many mediums now, whether it be a podcast off camera, whether it be I take your words and I put them over a reel and I'm reading them in my voice, whatever it is, there is a way to get legendary messages out there for the rest of the world. It's just a matter of convincing somebody what that medium is going to be for them. Because we are in a, I think my generation is in such a weird place. I'm almost a decade older than you, because we worked with those salty old guys, right? And that was the first half of our career. Now the second half of our career, they're all retiring, and we're dealing with a completely new and different generation. So we really have one foot in each of these things. And I think we're really the catalyst to kind of bring it all together to make sure the fire service stays a certain level of rigid and salty, but brings in a lot of the flexibility and other aspects that these newer kids are bringing in. It's weird. It's an interesting place to be that kind of middle 20-year person, because it's like you're the agitator who's in charge of mixing those two things together and making them work for the fire service.
Yeah,
Making sure that the good lives on, but get rid of some of the bad stuff, right?
it's extremely hard, right? Because there are a lot of old school things that are old school, but they work. Like they're solid. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason. And then there's a lot of old school things that are just old school. And we are evolving as a culture, as a society, and as a fire service. And we have to be better. We can't live on the coattails of we've always done it that way. So let's keep on doing it.
Well, let's look at the new generation for just 2 seconds. Old school. I want you to make the coffee and take out the trash. You know why? Because I'm also watching the detail you put into things. If you're just being sloppy with everything you're doing, that's showing me that you don't have care and pride in your work. And therefore, I'm going to watch you a little more closely on calls to make sure you're not skipping steps and setting us up for failure. That's an old school thing that always needs to carry forth because it's a litmus test. It's not crapping on you, making you do all the chores, right? There's reasons for that. But yelling at you and embarrassing you and isolating you when you do something wrong on a drill, something like that, that kind of crap, like that's got to go, right? Because people learn under pressure, but only certain personalities learn under humiliation. If you humiliate me, I'm not actually going to learn really well. But that's out of spite. People shouldn't have to thrive in that. So, yeah, it's such a mixture of there's some great old things that I've had to explain to so many new rookies. No, there's a reason you're doing everything because they will stand up and they will state their opinion on it now. Good for them, but no, you're going to keep doing it, and here's why.
Right. That's interesting you said that because it is true. The difference. I talked to a couple people this morning that I'm mentoring, and we dove into how you do one thing is how you do everything, and it's so true. Like the little details always matter, right? Because people think that they can just pick and choose what they want to put their attention to, and that's not how we as human beings operate. Because
Right?
there's gonna come a time where you slip up, and it's just we're creatures of habit. So what's your habit? Like if your habit is I'm gonna pick and choose, like you're gonna pick and choose the wrong thing that you don't. I've done it. I literally almost got fired. Right. This is the first time I publicly said it. I literally almost got fired because I didn't pay attention to my vacation accrual, and I got put in a point where I ran out of vacation. And for the department that I work for, that's the same classification as AWOL, right? Just not showing up to work. Two different things, but our system doesn't flag if you have vacation hours or not, right? The system's set up to where if you put in for vacation, the chief approves it if there's availability. It's up to you to make sure that you verify if you have the right hours. And if you don't, you get put in the classification of like you literally get approved, you're off
Mhm.
work, and then when you come back, you'll have an asterisk by your name on telestaff, which is what we use here for scheduling. And payroll will run that, and then payroll will communicate to the chief, hey, this person didn't have vacation. So now he will knock you, be classified as AWOL. And I had those stack up, and it put me in a really, really bad spot because I was picking and choosing right? What I felt was important versus what's actually important. So, and I try to do everything that I can to the best of my ability. But I also got so busy, so overwhelmed that I missed the little details, right? Like I didn't pay attention to the small details like I should have. Amazing lesson for me. So now I try to tell people like, hey man, like don't cut corners. It'll catch up to you one day, right? Like it's one of those things like how many stop signs do you run before you get a ticket or you hit somebody? Like it's only a matter of time, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. So we'll kind of segue and finish out the conversation with talk to me about how you got involved. I'm super curious with. I know you've been working and doing articles and stuff like that with fire engineering, but how it's kicked off. If you're okay with speaking about Firefighter Nation and kind of breaking that down for people that don't know.
So, fire engineering had owned this little baby site that they did nothing with. It was a an organization that I bought out, I think like 15 years ago. And when I was coming in the fire service, it was almost like the watch desk. It was just this kind of gossipy site where it was like MySpace married with the watch desk. So it sat dormant for years. And I was writing every month for fire engineering, had a podcast through them. And they decided, hey, we want to create this space for people to talk about leadership, mental health, really everything. The way I describe it is fire engineering prepares you for everything on the fire ground, right? All the techniques, all the skills that you need to put out that fire. Firefighter Nation prepares you for everything up to that point. So your leadership, your health, your mental health, all of those things, we really wanted a space for that. So they brought me on to run that, and that's been a really freaking fun project because getting to see on the internet voices like yours and be like, hey man, write me an article on that, and really take voices that might not have been heard in that arena before, because it is, you think fire engineering, you do think those really salty established guys who really prove themselves a certain way. But we're entering a new era and a new generation. So it's been fun getting to identify the new voices to pick up and carry that mantle, because eventually those guys are going to say, all right, you know what? I want to go out and spend the rest of my life traveling. Like I've done the fire service for 60 years. They're going to want a break. And so who's that generation that's going to step up? So that's been what that project is. And it's been really neat getting to find those who are going to really shape the next 10 years of the fire service. Because we are in so many weird places right now, right? Staffing, hiring, retention. The fire service is in a very difficult spot with some stuff, and changes are going to happen. So who's going to speak about that change? Who's going to fall on that sword? Who's going to lead that change? Who's going to direct that change? So that has been the project that is Firefighter Nation.
I love that. I love everything that stands for. And it's needed. It's needed. Every time I see somebody who creates a coaching program or is coaching firefighters or is creating content in this space on the internet, I have the utmost respect for it because not only is it needed, but it's hard, right? It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to create things and deliver a message that can be criticized, right? That's the one thing about the internet. The internet's permanent, right? Once you put it out there, it's out there. And now we've talked about all this. We're taking it to video, right? Like that's the next level, and it's necessary. Like that's where the generation is going, right? The generation doesn't know about Jim McCormick, right? Coming in, like who's Jim McCormick? Like that's something that I've always used at a high level because he's taught me a lot, and his passion for the job is unmatched. And if anybody out there listening has the opportunity to go to Fire Department Training Network in Indiana, it's excellent. There's guys that are in North Georgia at a program that I just went through called Georgia Flames that you'll never know about these amazing people in this little town unless you go take these classes, right?
Mhm.
And that's one thing in its own. I tell everybody, like, wherever you work, leave that place and go learn firefighting other places because
Right.
you'll meet people that have so much experience, knowledge, and passion that are not in your own land, right? And I wanted to circle back. and the ADD took me everywhere, and we finally got back here. You said something, and that's people have told me that. Actually, a specific friend of mine, a good friend of mine, has told me that. Hey man, you're doing all this stuff, but you don't do much for the department. And we had a conversation of, it went about in a little different manner. But my thought process is like I've made some mistakes where like I'm not a shepherd in my own land, you know. And I think in your own land, you're judged the hardest.
You are.
Like you're not given any grace. And for anybody out there that makes mistakes in their department and has a rough patch, it doesn't define you, right? Like your department, while it may seem is the world, it's really not. Like it's a little place on a little spot on this planet Earth. And there are so many other firefighters out there that will give you the chance, right? And for me, I love my department. My department has given me everything. My department has given me so much growth that I could never thank it enough. It's been growth through error, right? Like it's been growth through me struggling, but the type of person I am, I love that. Like I love struggling. I love making mistakes. I love things being hard. I really, really do. I made a decision a long time ago. We had this private conversation of I'm not this person. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm really not. Like I was overweight, spoiled kid that wanted to be a firefighter because I just thought it was cool. Right? I had no idea the physical demands. I had no idea the tradition. I had no idea the expectation of what it was to be a firefighter. To the point, I failed out of fire school, failed out of EMT school, right? Never let that define me. And I made a decision a long time ago that on the other side of hard is fulfillment, right? Like you will be proud and you will be better off for it. So now I see, that's why I seek doing hard things online. And it's not to prove anything except to myself that like there's always room for growth, always. And I'm slowly but surely trying to be in that position that the department is more welcoming. I think it's a big part of that is how you deliver a message, right? So for all of my guys out there that are heavy hitters that are very, very, just like you said, you were spinning at such a high velocity that like you needed to be redirected in one direction and then like you were off the races. That's kind of where I've transitioned and I'm going that way now.
I mean, listen, I came into my department straight out of high school. So every inappropriate, aggressive, sarcastic, snarky, nasty thing that could be said, I said. So it's always going to be outliving my growing up in the fire service. But I will say this to people when it comes to projects in your home department, find two things you absolutely hate about your department and chip away at them across the span of 25 years. I had two goals. One of them I'm about to see come to fruition was something I wanted to change, and that was a pretty overwhelming moment to see. The other one, you know what? I don't know if I ever will see it change, but because I'm on the back end of my career and I wasn't seeing it change, I went and I created another resource for people that they can access in case it doesn't change over here, I have an answer over here. So put back into your department. Find something you hate and don't just complain about it. Chip away at it. You've got 25 to 30 years, right? It's just that little water drop. You might not be able to change it. You might not be able to put effort into it every year. But if you have conversations, if you find a way to educate people on why it's a problem, why it's an issue, man, I really hope after 25 years you can change it, right?
Yeah.
Find a way to put, I think, so you said nobody's more judgmental of us than our own departments. Nobody's going to be more judgmental of your own department than somebody who works there. So nobody's going to be harder on my department than me. Somebody who's worked there for a hot minute, somebody who has seen fair amount and stayed at busy houses, yeah, you know what? I'm going to have an opinion of my department. So they better be welcome to change when change agents come knocking on the door. It goes both ways in terms of your department having an issue with you or an opinion of you and you having an opinion of your department. Departments need to realize that their people, when they step out, you better take a close look at them and say, hey, is their message good? And wait, is what they're changing based on us and stuff we're doing wrong? Like, take a look in the mirror when you're looking at your people who are stepping out because they might have a message that they're preaching because you did everything wrong.
Mm.
And I see it in a lot of the people stepping out. They couldn't change something in their department. They didn't want to have that helpless feeling anymore. So they took those messages that they learned in their department doing something the wrong way and they stepped forward with it.
That's
Coin has
amazing.
two sides.
Yeah, that is amazing, and I see that because I have friends that have done that. I have mentors that have done that, right? And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You have to remember, like, you have to think of the big picture, and the big picture is the fire service, not a fire department. The fire department is very small relative to the fire service. And the fire department gives you the opportunity, right? And that's something that I've come to have great appreciation and gratitude that I have this morning. I mean, I was flooded with, it's my birthday and I just have found
What?
gratitude. Yeah, I found gratitude today for so much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Another trip around the sun. And I love being a firefighter. Right? I love, nobody can ever take that away from me. My passion for the job is so high because it's just what I love, and they give me that opportunity. Right, the department that I work for. So with that, that's enough. I don't have to agree with the policies. I don't have to agree with the stickers we wear on our helmets and like how they want them a certain way, because that doesn't matter. Right, like what matters is me being able to put on the uniform and serve, right? Serve the people I work with, and then serve the citizens that we help. And that's the amazing thing of being a firefighter. Like, is that service. Thank you, Stephanie. We went in a couple different directions. This podcast is awesome.
That's
If
okay.
people want to find you, where can they look? Obviously, you're very very involved right now with writing and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, talk to me.
If you want to find me, first off, go check out Firefighter Nation, where you can see just the next generation of leaders in the fire service writing about the fire service. And maybe whatever problems you've got, you'll find the answer on there. 5 after midnight on Instagram, and you can get to me through there. And happy birthday. You didn't tell me it was your birthday.
Nah, that's not something that I need to go around with a post-it sign on my forehead like, hey, it's my birthday.
I would at least had a donut with a candle if I had known.
That's awesome. No, it's just another day. It's no big deal. But yeah, this is an epic podcast, guys. For anybody out there, you matter, right? Stephanie's very involved with mental health and recovery, and I want to iterate the message of you are important, but nobody's going to make yourself a priority like you will, right? And until you do that, your life's not going to change. Everybody will help you, but you got to help yourself, right? Like it's a collective effort. It's not let me put my hand up and everyone's going to help me from drowning. Like you gotta try to swim. Like you gotta put a little effort out there. But yeah, so thank you so much, Steph. I appreciate you.